Hello and welcome back to the Last Walks blog, and the first in another new series for the 2017-18 season, which is going by the name of Reece Rambles. Just as the title suggests, it will be me once a week rambling on about something topical. So for this very first edition, nothing more topical than the club Q&A which took place last night, and yeah, it was a good evening. I wouldn't say we found out too much that was mind blowing or totally shocking, but there was plenty of insight there, plenty of interesting topics, discussions, some very good questions, some not so good, but you're always going to get that at these kind of events. And to be honest, AD Pennock out of the whole panel probably did come across the better out of the rest. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to spend about 20-25 minutes throughout pre-season speaking to him, and yeah, he does come across really well. And combining that with the business he's done, in terms of player recruitment, he has probably done enough to earn himself a lot more backing from myself, and I'd like to think I'm not the only one who is in that position now, especially after tonight, because he is good with fans, he is good with engagement, and he knows how to talk a good game. But I suppose ultimately he will be judged from when Saturday comes and onwards, when there's points to play for in matches. But the first topic that sort of come up really was a topical one at the moment amongst fans generally on social media, and that's the goalkeeping situation, and particularly Tom Hadler. And the goalkeeping coach spoke about him briefly, saying how he is a really exciting prospect, and he can't fault him since the time the goalkeeping coach has been here. But then AD started speaking about him as well, and suggested that he had a long time out, not that long ago, where he had to have surgery on an injury, and he is still only 21. And I'm not sure what he meant by it, but he said he's a young 21. And basically the general consensus picked up from that was that he probably will end up going on loan somewhere this season, meaning that despite many that think he's worthy of a shot in the first team, it's probably not likely to happen anytime soon, and especially not this side of Christmas, because it looks likely that he's probably going to go somewhere to gain some first team competitive experience for at least 6 months, maybe even the entire season. But of course, another youngster that people are frequently talking about is Darren Oldacre, and his name came up, and again they speak really highly of him, particularly Pennock, which surprised me. Well, it didn't surprise me that he spoke more glowingly of him than I expected him to. But again, he was saying how he can produce moments of brilliance, like we saw at Chatham with that free kick. But then there's also times where he's not got that experience. He might try and overplay in areas he shouldn't, and that's something they want to cut out, I think, before they make him a consistent feature in the first team. But it was confirmed by Pennock that Darren Oldacre is no longer a client of Charlie Edinburgh's, which I don't think is a bad thing, considering the Edinburgh relations, which I will come on to very shortly. But in general, with the youngsters, someone quite firmly put their point that last season, when results were going really, really poorly, and it come across to a lot of the players out there weren't trying. Why weren't the kids thrown in when they probably would have shown a lot more passion, a lot more desire for the shirt? And basically AD said that they weren't ready. It wasn't the situation to chuck them into, and it wouldn't have been good for their careers or their development to do so, which is a fair enough answer, I suppose, because it sounds like last season was a total circus, and it doesn't sound like it was the right environment to be throwing youngsters in when we was desperate for points to try and stay in the league. But another topic that a lot of people are talking about at the moment is the captaincy. AD said he knows who the captain is, but just left us hanging on that one and said we'll have to wait and see on Saturday who has the armband. But led to believe that it will be Lee Martin. I think he's boasted the armband more than anyone else throughout pre-season. And good luck to him if he gets it. I would have no complaints. He's actually last season to come back from injury, 6 months early. Shows the level of commitment and desire he's got, and he has got that little bit of fire in him, something you need in a captain, and he's also got the experience at League One level. And hopefully his performances will thrive on it, and he can lead by example in that way. But yeah, moving on to our former manager, Justin Edinburgh. Probably the most shocking thing to come out of tonight's Q&A was the fact that Scali revealed that Justin made what he claimed is a ridiculous accusation against the club, which appears to have been brought to court level. Scali attended a hearing not that long ago about it. He didn't go into detail about what the claim was from Edinburgh, but yeah, it certainly sounds like there's no love lost between them two, and Scali tried to be a bit light-hearted about it as well, claiming that when Northampton's senior members contacted Scali about Edinburgh, he raved about him, saying how fantastic he was, to try and get them to give him the job so he didn't have to pay off the remainder of his contract, and whatever, it worked because Northampton gave Edinburgh the job and they're still their manager now. Yeah, a lot of Gills fans rapidly lost any fondness for Edinburgh for some of the things he said towards the end of his reign, and hearing some of the stuff tonight, Scali was bang on to get rid of him ASAP. I mean, he said that in November they both had a meeting where Scali brought up how the points per game ratio was rapidly dropping, and he made it perfectly clear that if that continued we would get relegated. And apparently Edinburgh reassured him that he was going to change everything round, and he said between that date and the day he sacked him, not a single thing changed. I mean, AD and the current staff touched on how the training wasn't good enough when they come in. The players weren't training long enough, weren't training hard enough, they weren't fit enough, they didn't care enough. And all these factors, I suppose, is why now, looking at it, last season ended up panning out as badly as it did. In a way, it probably is a little bit surprising that we are even in this division still, and we're probably fortunate to be so. But also Cody got mentioned. That was always going to be one that brought up why we wasn't able to keep him. And AD briefly said that he was disappointed to see him go. He would have liked to have kept him. He said that at the end of the day, he was offered a deal and he chose to move on to Wimbledon, and that was all that was said about it, really. Whereas I expect in the eyes of most people, the club probably didn't really do as much as they could have done in order to try and keep him at the football club. But of course, another big topic that was always going to come up when Scali was around was investment. And he said the usual, how he's trying. He's always meeting people, trying to find things out. But he did reiterate that there has been plenty of people interested in potentially investing at some stage, but he said it's not always been the right people or willing to invest the right things at the right time. Because that's ultimately what he says. He says it's got to be right for the football club. It's obviously got to be sustainable. And that was about all he said on it, really. So basically, he's still trying, he's still working on it, but in terms of anything concrete at the moment, there's certainly nothing in place just yet anyway. But yeah, the other big topic with Scali was, of course, the centre plate saga, which he did say we've won the case, but it's just now a case of the fee that we're going to receive. Apparently they offered us about £900,000, I believe, but Scali's rejected that because in his eyes we're going to end up being able to win up to, I think it's 2.2 million. So yeah, he's holding out for that and hoping that we're going to get as much as we can from that, and hopefully then maybe in January when the transfer window reopens we might have a little bit more to stretch the budget and depending on, well, wherever we are in the table, if we're down the bottom, we're going to want a couple of extra players to drag us out of it. And if we're mid-table, a couple of players might be able to ensure a playoff push in the second half of the season. So either way, a little bit of extra finances coming around Christmas will do no harm to the club at all. But no, in summary, overall, it was a good evening. The general feeling was quite positive. All the staff, AD, Jamie, Steve, Peter Taylor, they all seem quite happy with this current situation, with the squad there is in place. And yeah, I mean, spirits are pretty good, but we'll obviously start to find out a lot more Saturday when the League One season kicks off. But yeah, that was the first in my series. Hope you enjoyed it. Just looking back at the Q&A from last night. But yeah, thanks for watching. Keep liking and subscribing to our videos. Keep watching them. We appreciate it an awful lot, as I'm sure you all know. And until next time, up the Gills.